Hey everyone, Wergo here, and welcome to this week's Dev Diary video. Today's Dev Diary was focused entirely on balance changes upcoming in the 1.32 free update, with no new features announced for the coinciding African Immersion Pack. There are three major changes covered in this Dev Diary. The first being to the ever-contentious Concentrate Development feature added in 1.31 and the Leviathan DLC specifically, as well as a big change to institutions and the way they affect tech costs for people that haven't embraced them. And then finally some really nice AI improvements I think everyone's really going to like. There are also some more minor changes to the Catholic Curia powers, as well as a pretty decent nerf to native tribes, and as well a change to the way the AI interacts with governing capacity, which kind of ties in with AI improvements. By the way, if you're interested in the time-lapse that this video is playing over, it is my Montferrat into Byzantium campaign, The Phoenix is Reborn. Check out the playlist for it, which is linked in the description down below. The big focus of this week's Dev Diary seems to be on the new changes coming to the Concentrate Development feature added in the Leviathan DLC, a very controversial feature, might I add. While technically working as intended, the feature becomes rather unbalanced and immersion breaking quite quickly in most games as they progress. In 1.32, now, when you pillage an area through war or concentrate development in your own land, it works similarly to the horde raising function, but with a 20% reduction to the development of the province instead of the way that horde raising calculates it. I'm not exactly sure what that is. This is converted to mana, ethereal mana really. You're not going to get mana in your pool, to the respective categories of the provinces, using the cost of development from the provinces themselves. So like concentrating from a jungle is going to be better than concentrating from farmlands, These ethereal monarch points are then taken to your capital with a 20% loss, except for nations that have free concentrate development. This leftover mana will be used to develop as much as they can in your capital province, with any leftover mana being lost to the wind. They also made it so you can no longer concentrate twice by simply giving the land you just concentrated to your vassal and concentrating again, a really nice change. Paradox has made these changes inspired by a Paradox Plaza forum post made by user Drakenfels, and that post will be linked down in the description below as well if you would like to check it out. Now personally, I do not like the way this change is implemented, but not for the way it works. I dislike it simply because I don't think all of the mana for development should go to only your capital province or area. I think there should be some way to dedicate important areas or provinces in your nation that concentrated and pillaged development should go to. I feel like this would be a better way to reflect what those mechanics do as a feature, because it seems to be something that's supposed to represent the resettlement and redistribution of resources from conquered nations to more centralized areas in your nation. And historically, I don't think nations exclusively centralized people just to their capitals. I think it broadly brought it back to the core of their nation. Next up, somewhat surprisingly, Paradox has decided to change the way institutions affect tech cost in this update. We all know how institutions work, but for those who maybe need a refresher, they give a 1% increase in tech costs a year, up to a cap of 50% after 50 years of not having it embraced per institution. So you could have like Renaissance and printing press not embraced, and that would give you 100% tech cost. This won't go away until the specific institution is accepted in the country. The way this works now penalizes nations outside of Europe that do not take technology as quickly as they can, adding to the cost every year, creating a kind of snowball effect where you're going to fall further and further behind the slower you are at taking tech. From 1.32 onwards, every individual technology in-game will have a fixed set of required institutions, like Tech 6 will require Renaissance, and if you don't have that institution embraced, it will automatically give you the 50% cost penalty for that tech right away, no waiting. It's almost putting a hard cap on the techs a nation can take if they do not have the institution. Not really a hard cap, but if it's going to cost 1,500 mana to take an institution, is it really worth it to take it? We'll see. Paradox says this new system has 3 big benefits over the old system. Institutions now cause a rubber band effect on tech instead of a snowball effect, for number 1. Number 2, some movement in Florence doesn't magically affect the Aztecs until it spreads there. And number 3, an institution spawning is now a good thing. Honestly, I find some issue with the way they propose these good things that happen with this change, with the nice properties they list, or at least the way they list them. The first one I agree with, though. It being a rubber band effect is much more desirable than falling behind simply because you didn't take the tech as fast as another person. While historically speaking, technology does aid in the discovery of new technology, it really hurts regional game balance to have it go that way, because this is still a game and you can't just base everything off of it being history. Number 2, however, I don't completely agree with, as that random movement in Florence will still magically affect the Aztecs, just in a different way. It's still going to magically raise their tech cost out of nowhere, or I guess it doesn't really raise it out of nowhere anymore. It does do tech individually, so they might be right about that, actually. They still get the tech penalty. In fact, they get it sooner. More of a grammatical issue, though, than a sentiment, though. Because I didn't get it right away, but I think I do get it now, rereading this. Their third point I find the weirdest. An institution spawning has always been a good thing to me. If not only for the bonus you get from accepting it, or bonus you get from accepting it and from spawning it. If you spawn an institution, you get 300 monarch points and some other nice little benefits. Paradox says that the new system will stabilize tech costs for non-European nations much more sooner than previously. And I do like that a lot. It makes other regions more competitive since there's not going to be some guy like 3 techs ahead of another one. They also talk about how outdated and strange the code for institutions is, with a lot of random things affecting it, and most of those things are from the pre-Rights of Man expansion technology group-based tech system, which I don't know if a lot of you played back then. It was a pretty crappy system. Westernization ruined your country every time. Oh, it was so fun. Apparently joining a trade league, though, requires having at most 200% tech cost from institutions. Did you know that? I didn't. I mean, I don't really join trade leagues either, but effectively it was a way to limit, like, Indian nations and stuff from joining trade league in Europe, but it kind of didn't translate well over, I think. That's the only specific example they've given for now, but they say we'll be getting the rest of them in the direct 1.32 changelog whenever that comes. For the third and final major change this dev diary introduces, it's to the AI, which everyone complains about all the time, so hopefully this will fix that. Every patch has had issues, and it gets worse every update. It's just a compounding effect that they haven't really addressed until now. This is because EU4's AI has had dozens of developers working on it, and apparently some of the code goes all the way back to the late 90s. Now, I'd call that a glaring criticism of Paradox right there, but I do understand that reusing code from older games isn't actually a horrible thing in and of itself. The way it is right now, though, the AI apparently kind of has a bunch of different voices in its head. It's kind of like a schizophrenic AI, and every choice is telling it to do certain things in a certain way, and usually one voice dominates the rest. This is a problem because there's nothing really to dictate that that voice is the one that's best for that situation. So it's not great. In the screenshot provided, you can see the way the AI evaluates an action such as killing some rebels, with a lower score here being better. It's like golf. but there is a modifier there simply saying, kill them, that outweighs a lot of the more sensible choices like terrain and supply limit. So, Paradox has spent a lot of time, or a lot of the AI-focused time for 1.32 kind of rooting out to and like fixing these systems that interfere with each other like this. Now, they gave us a list of the major fixes they've made. For the army, the AI will now be broadly more competent at achieving larger goals with its army, although individual stacks' movements can still be erratic and unpredictable. The AI will also keep a larger army in peacetime, which will hopefully fix the issue of me declaring war on France because they have like 20,000 troops while I have 30,000, like get fucked France, and suddenly they build up to 60,000 and wipe me. I like this fix. Next, the AI should now be able to perform naval invasions again, which an observer test run has shown to have a huge effect on European colonizer AI's ability to colonize the Americas. Bad luck for any of you players that really enjoyed a peaceful Inca or Aztec run in the last few patches, where the AI would land like 5,000 troops at a time, and you could wipe them as they were landing. For the third change, AI now slightly knows how to manage an economy, and puts more emphasis on financial return when constructing buildings. Maybe now, whenever I conquer a coastal province, there won't be a coastal defense and a dock, and instead there'll be like a workshop and a manufactory. Just a thought, Venice, like, it's a paper province, why are you building these? For the fourth and final major change to the AI logic behind releasing vassals when over governing capacity has been reworked, hopefully preventing Muscovy from, for some reason, releasing Novgorod as a vassal and giving up all the land they need to form Russia. Like, please, Muscovy, uncolonized Siberia is so ugly. Please stop releasing Novgorod and annexing them and releasing them and annexing them and releasing them until they finally get support independence from like Denmark and Poland, and you're destroyed for the rest of the game. Oh, also, lucky nations, because, everyone loves them, get a bonus now to their governing capacity as if they weren't aggressive enough. It's great. That's it for the major improvements this patch, and all that's left is some minor changes to native tribes and Catholics. All Catholic Curia powers now will be gaining some kind of improvement, with all getting a secondary bonus. The three examples given are Bless Ruler, now giving plus 10% land morale modifier, Indulgence for Sin, now giving a 10% improve relations modifier, and Send Papal Legate, now giving a minus 10% diplomatic annexation cost modifier. I think all of these stack really well with the current bonuses those powers give. Like, Catholic has been so non-competitive, even in single player as a nation, because they're missing out on all those different kinds of bonuses like Orthodox and Protestant get to your military and just to your like peacetime nation. And the fact that it costs papal power at all is a pain. While making this video though, I noticed that the wiki doesn't actually list what any of the Curia powers do. Like, there is no spot on the wiki that even lists the names of them. So I had to go into the game to get the screenshots for this and try to weasel out what each did. Now, I'd also like to personally see that the 10% land morale modifier go to the Proclaim Holy War Curia power, because, it kind of makes more sense stacking the military benefits on one. But who knows what secondary bonus they're planning to give to the other ones right now. We'll see, I'm sure, when the changelog comes out. Next, Paradox is making some big changes to Native American nations. I guess Native Australian nations too. They've added a new reform to slow the path to becoming a real duchy for settled tribes, as well as adding the requirement that the nation has accepted feudalism. No more non-feudal duchies for the Americas. Sorry, guys. They've also added cooldowns for migration into lands you don't own, making tribal land even more important than before. And then they also added a penalty for migrating into winter territory and made it so that the cost to add new tribal land scales with the amount of provinces you own and your nation's development. Finally, they've added a relation penalty that increases monthly for being inside another nation's tribal land. You know, it makes sense. I'd be mad too if my neighbor decided to camp in my backyard instead of theirs. For the actual final one, the native changes, they've nerfed native development growth so that there's no more Australian megacities in the 1500s when the Australians hadn't even built like a large town at that point. That's it for this week's Dev Diary. It has a lot of really nice balance changes that will hopefully help keep the reviews for this coming immersion pack above 10% positive and not the lowest ever on Steam. I hope this isn't the final pass they do over some of these systems, but for the 4th Dev Diary of the update, I think they're doing pretty well. If you disagree with anything I said in the video, I am open to discussing in the comments and do my best to respond as soon as I see them. If you liked my little review of the diary, please do leave a like on the video as it really does help others to see it. And if you liked me, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I release Dev Diary videos weekly, and I post daily videos of my 2 current campaigns. Right now, that's a Montferrat into Byzantium campaign, The Phoenix is Reborn, and the other is a France campaign trying to get better than Napoleon, trying to keep it balanced between a large nation and a small nation. I hope it's kind of working. That's all for today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you guys have a great day.